They told me I matched the description, they told me to stop talking, and they laughed when I said I was on my way to court. That was the moment I realized this wasn't going to be a normal traffic stop, not even close. You know that feeling when the air shifts, when logic quietly exits the room and you're just standing there trying to catch up? Yeah, that happened. And what still gets me is this. If they had taken 10 seconds to actually look at who I was instead of what they assumed I was, none of what came next would have happened. That morning started like any other workday hot already, one of those sticky summer mornings where the heat makes people impatient and sloppy. I was driving to the courthouse, mentally running through my opening statement, trimming words, tightening phrases, making sure everything landed clean. Court was at 9:15, I had time, I always leave early. I wasn't nervous, just focused. This wasn't my first big case, but it mattered. The kind of case that doesn't make you popular. Months of audits, quiet interviews, sealed complaints, numbers that didn't add up, no matter how many times you looked at them. I had been brought in from outside for a reason. When systems rot, they don't fix themselves, someone has to cut in. I stopped at a light, checked my mirrors, eased forward when it turned green, and then I heard it. That short chirp of a siren, red and blue lights blooming in the mirror like a bad memory. I checked my speed without thinking, 35, the limit signals, used registration, clean insurance, current, everything by the book. Still, I pulled over, slow, calm hands visible on the wheel before they even got to the door. I've learned that calm is armor, sometimes the only kind you get. The first officer walked up chewing something like he was bored, sunburned, leaning in too close. License and registration. No greeting, no explanation. I asked why I was being stopped, polite, steady. He snapped back that he didn't ask for conversation. I reached for my wallet, slowly narrating every move like you're taught to do if you want to go home. And that's when the younger officer at the back shouted that I was reaching. My hand froze midair. I said I was reaching for my wallet, that it was in my jacket pocket, that I was moving slowly. Didn't matter. Step out of the vehicle now. The door was already open, his hand already on it. That's the moment you feel it, that internal click when you realize this is no longer about traffic or safety or anything reasonable. The decision has been made, you're just along for the ride. They put me against the hood metal, hot enough to sting, shoved harder than necessary. The older one pressed me down like he wanted me to feel small, like he needed that. I told him who I was, that I was an attorney, that I was on my way to court, that I strongly suggested they verify my registration before this went any further. They laughed. Everybody's a lawyer when the cuffs come out, the younger one said, frisking me rough hands, searching for something that wasn't there. The cuffs went on tight, too tight on purpose. Steel biting into my wrists as my arms were twisted back and jerked up just enough to make a point. Pain, sharp and deliberate, not restraint punishment. They searched my car without consent, without cause. The older one leaned in and said he smelled weed, a lie delivered like muscle memory. That was all he needed, that was always all he needed. They dumped my things onto the pavement, papers, phone charger, mints, and then they found the folder. Thick, red, clearly official. The younger officer asked what it was, the older one grinned and said it looked stolen, add it to the list. I told them not to open it, told them it was evidence, told them that tampering with it would only make things worse. He grabbed the back of my neck and shoved me toward the cruiser. You think big words scare me? I eat guys like you for breakfast. Then I was in the backseat cage between us. No air heat, building fast. Sweat rolled down my spine, not from fear, but from a rage I couldn't afford to show. I closed my eyes and started memorizing everything. Every shove, every word, every violation. Because I knew something they didn't. On the ride, they joked, mocked my voice, talked about seizing my car, auctioning it off, maybe using it undercover. Then the conversation shifted. Did you hear about that big case today, internal corruption thing? Some outside prosecutor supposed to be a real problem. I almost smiled. They decided not to take me to the station. The older one wanted to parade me, show me off, teach me something. So they drove straight to the courthouse basement entrance, cameras everywhere. I was marched through hallways like a trophy, hands cuffed behind me, suit wrinkled, dignity dragged across concrete. They parked me in a holding area just outside the courtroom, the one I was supposed to walk into freely 15 minutes earlier. When the judge took the bench, he looked around confused, the prosecution table empty. Then his eyes landed on me. He said my name. The room went silent. I stood as best I could with cuffs digging into my wrists and apologized for the delay, said I'd run into some procedural complications. You could feel it then, the shift, the moment reality finally caught up with the older officer. The judge asked why I was restrained. The officer tried to explain it away. Traffic stop, suspicion, procedure. The judge didn't look at him, just looked at me and asked if I was under arrest. I said it appeared so by those two officers on my way to prosecute a case starting in that courtroom. The judge removed his glasses slowly, and if you've ever been in court, you know what that means. He ordered the cuffs removed. The officer hesitated. That hesitation cost him everything. He handed over the keys. When the cuffs came off, my wrists were red, swollen, marked. I adjusted my jacket, took my folder back, and walked to the prosecution table. I didn't ask for a recess. I didn't need one. What had just happened was better than any opening statement I could have written. I told the court exactly what happened calmly. Fact by fact, no drama, just truth. Then I added 2 new names to the case, the same 2 men who had cuffed me. They were remanded immediately. Shackles swapped sides. The sound of metal clicking shut echoed through the room like punctuation. But that wasn't the end. At trial, the defense tried to suppress the evidence, argued chain of custody, claimed the file couldn't be trusted because it had been handled improperly. They thought they were clever. What they didn't know was that my car records everything, audio and video, cloud synced the moment someone forces entry. While they were tearing apart my interior looking for drugs that didn't exist, my car was documenting a conspiracy in real time. We played it in court. The jury heard their voices clear as day, talking about planting evidence, teaching me a lesson, breaking me. You could hear the air leave the room. The verdict didn't take long. Guilty. All counts. As they led the older officer away in cuffs, he looked at me and I saw it in his eyes. Not anger, not hatred, fear. The kind that shows up when the power you've abused disappears. Outside, after everything was done, I stood by my car and breathed. I wasn't celebrating. I was thinking about how close this came to going the other way, about how many times it already had for people without my resources, my preparation, my timing. Justice worked that day, yeah, but only because I stayed calm, knew my rights, and let the truth speak louder than their insults. And that's the part that keeps me up sometimes, because the system shouldn't depend on you having the perfect storm of credentials and timing to survive it. So here's my question to you. If you were in that car, would you have kept your composure? Would the system have protected you the same way? Or would this have been another story that never made it to court? Tell me what you think. Was this justice or was it just karma catching up? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Challenge it, agree, disagree, tell your own story. And if you think stories like this matter, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it.